The old scholar named had studied humans for 30 years. He had read every report. He had watched every recording. He had interviewed hundreds of aliens who had met them, but he still did not understand them. Humans were persistent predators. This was a fact. Long ago on their home world, they had chased animals for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. They had forward-facing eyes like all hunters. They ate meat. They had sharp teeth. By every measure in the Galactic Union's classification system, humans were dangerous. But something was wrong with the classification. Sat in his small cabin on the research station Quiet Dawn and looked at his notes. The station held 47 researchers from 12 different species. 2 of them were human, and in 30 years of study had never seen anything like what he was seeing now. They had brought their young on board. Sfur stood up just thinking about it. They were monsters. They stood 3 meters tall on 6 powerful legs. Their claws carried poison that could kill in seconds. Their jaws could crush metal. They were the most feared predators in the known galaxy. And they had rules about their cubs. No one touched cubs. No one looked at cubs. No one even breathed near cubs. Mothers had killed their own family members for getting too close. They had started wars over perceived threats to their young. Every species in the galaxy knew this rule: stay away from children or die. The mother on board was named. She had 3 cubs, each one the size of a large dog with soft gray fur and big golden eyes. They were perhaps the most dangerous things on the station, not because of what they could do, but because of what their mother would do to protect them. Stayed far away from them. Everyone did. Everyone except the humans. The first time saw it, he thought he was dreaming. The human woman doctor had walked right past and smiled at the cubs. She had waved at them. She had said hello in a soft, gentle voice. Had frozen in terror. He waited for to strike. He waited for blood. He waited for screaming. Did nothing. The cubs had looked at with curiosity. One of them had made a small chirping sound, had laughed quietly and continued walking. Could not believe what he had seen. He checked the security recordings 3 times. It was real. A human had approached cubs and the mother had allowed it. He began watching more carefully after that. The other human was an engineer named. He was a tall man with kind eyes and rough hands. He fixed things on the station. He was always busy, always moving, always working. And whenever he passed the family, he would stop for a moment. He would crouch down to the cubs' level. He would speak to them in a low, warm voice. The cubs started waiting for him. Saw it happen over days. First, they would just watch pass. Then they would move toward the door when they heard his footsteps. Then they would make happy sounds when he appeared. They were bonding with him, a prey species bonding with baby predators. No, that was wrong. Humans were predators too, but they were bonding with different predators. This made no sense. Predators did not do this. Predators competed. Predators fought. Predators did not make friends with other predators young. Then the engines failed. The explosion came at night, was thrown from his bed, alarms screamed, red lights flashed, the station shook like a dying animal. Ran to the main hall with everyone else. The captain, a calm with blue scales, explained the situation. The main engine was destroyed. Life support was failing in sections. They had sent a distress signal, but rescue was at least 5 days away. 5 days with failing life support. The crew began organizing. They would seal off damaged sections. They would share resources. They would survive. Then the second alarm came. Life support in Section 7 was failing faster than expected. Temperature was dropping. Oxygen was leaking. Section 7 would be uninhabitable in 6 hours. Section 7 was where the family lived. Watchd's face. The great predator, the monster, the killer, looked afraid. She looked at her cubs. She looked at the failing section. She looked at the crew. No one moved. No one offered help. Everyone was too afraid. Everyone except. The human woman stepped forward. She spoke in that same soft, gentle voice. She told that there was space in the main shelter. She told her the cubs would be safe there. She offered to help carry them. Stopped breathing. This was it. This was the moment. Would kill her. Would tear her apart for suggesting she touch the cubs. Looked at for a long moment. Those golden predator eyes studied the small human, could see claws flex. He could see her muscles tense. Then stepped aside. She stepped aside and let approach her cubs. His legs went weak. He had to lean against the wall. This was impossible. This was against everything he knew. This was against nature itself. Knelt down beside the smallest cub. She held out her hand slowly. She let the cub sniff her. She spoke soft words that could not hear. Then, gently, carefully, she lifted the cub into her arms. The cub did not struggle. It pressed against her chest. It made a small, content sound. Watched. She did not attack. She did not roar. She simply watched as this human, this strange small predator held her child. Came forward and picked up another cub. It wrapped its paws around his neck. It buried its face in his shoulder. Pulled out his recording device. His hands were shaking. He did not know what he was seeing, but he knew it was important. He knew it would change everything. He began to record. 3 days passed. The station grew colder. Food grew shorter. Fear grew stronger. Spent every moment watching and recording. He barely slept. He barely ate. What was happening on this station was more important than his own comfort. He was witnessing something that had never been documented before. The main shelter was crowded. 47 beings from 12 species lived in a space meant for 20. The herbivore species, like his own people, stayed on one side. They huddled together, eating their small rations, speaking in whispers. They watched the predators with wide, frightened eyes. The predators stayed on the other side. The family took one corner. A traitor, a creature like a giant spider with too many eyes, took another corner. A pair of soldiers stood guard near the door. The predators did not speak to each other. They did not need to. They understood each other through silence. But the humans moved everywhere. This was what could not understand. The humans did not stay with one group. They did not pick a side. They walked freely between the herbivores and the predators. They spoke to everyone. They helped everyone. Spent his days fixing things. He repaired the heating system. He sealed small leaks. He built a water recycler from broken parts. When he was done working, he did not rest. He went to the corner and sat with the cubs. Watched from a safe distance. He saw teaching the cubs a human game. It involved rolling a small ball back and forth. The cubs did not understand at first. They tried to eat the ball. They tried to hunt it, but was patient. He showed them again and again. Soon, the cubs were rolling the ball back to him, making happy chirping sounds. Watched her cubs play with the human. Her face was unreadable, but she did not stop them. She did not growl. Sometimes thought he saw something soft in her eyes. The human woman worked with the medical supplies. She checked everyone's health. She gave medicine to the sick. She cleaned wounds and set broken bones. She worked without rest, without complaint, without asking for anything in return. On the 3rd night, the smallest cub got sick. Learned about it when he heard its roar. It was a sound of fear and pain, not anger. The cub was shaking. Its fur was wet with sweat. Its eyes were closed. The cold was killing it. Expected to guard her sick cub with violence. He expected her to threaten anyone who came near. This was what mothers did. This was their nature. But did something else. She called for the humans. Came running. She brought a 3rd human that had not noticed before. Her name was. She was smaller than the other humans, with gentle hands and a soft voice. She was a medic. Knelt beside the sick cub without hesitation. She touched its forehead. She listened to its breathing. She looked at its eyes. Stood over her, those massive claws just centimeters from its head. One wrong move and would die. Did not seem afraid. She spoke to in a calm voice. She explained that the cub was too cold. Its body was shutting down. It needed warmth. It needed medicine. It needed constant care for the next day. Asked if the cub would live. Was honest. She said she did not know, but she said she would do everything possible. She said she would not leave the cub's side until it was better. Watched what happened next with his mouth open. Stayed with the cub for 19 hours. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She wrapped the cub in heated blankets. She gave it medicine every hour. She held it against her body to share her warmth. She sang to it, soft, strange human songs that had never heard. The other cubs would not leave their sibling. They curled up beside, pressing against her legs, against her arms. They whimpered and cried, spoke to them too. She told them their brother would be okay. She told them to be brave. Approached during the long night, he needed to understand. He asked her why was doing this. The cub was not her child. The cub was not even her species. The cub was the offspring of a creature that could kill her with one swipe. Why was she risking her health, her sleep, her safety for it? Looked at him with tired eyes. She seemed confused by the question. She said that the cub was sick. She said that the cub was scared. She said that no child should be sick and scared alone. Pressed further. He asked if humans did this for all children, not just human children, all children, any children. Nodded. She said this was normal for humans. She said humans could not watch a child suffer without trying to help. It did not matter what species the child was. It did not matter if helping was dangerous. Children were children. Asked what would happen if the cub died despite care. His face became sad. She said that would cry. She said that would blame herself. She said that would carry that pain for the rest of her life. Did not understand. He asked why would feel pain for a stranger's child. Was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that would never forget. She said that to humans, there were no strangers' children. There were only children. Near dawn, the small cub opened its eyes. It was weak but alive. It looked up at and made a tiny sound, laughed and cried at the same time. She stroked its fur with shaking hands. Approached slowly. She looked at her cub. She looked at the human who had saved it. Then she did something that no one in the galaxy had ever seen it do. She lowered her head to, a gesture of respect, a gesture of gratitude, a gesture of trust. Recorded everything. His hands were shaking again. He was beginning to understand, and what he was understanding was changing everything he believed. On the fourth day, asked to speak with him. He was terrified. His fur was flat against his body. His hearts beat so fast that he thought they might burst. No one had ever asked for a private conversation. There were prey. There were predators. They did not talk. They did not meet eyes. They certainly did not ask questions. But needed to know. Agreed to speak with him. They met in a small storage room away from the others, kept the door open. He kept his back to the wall. He kept his eyes on her claws. Every instinct in his body told him to run. But he stayed. He had to understand. He asked the question that had burned in his mind for days. Why did she trust the humans with her cubs? Why did any trust any human? They killed anyone who came near their young. This was known. This was fact. This was nature. So why were humans different? Was quiet for a long time. She looked at with those golden eyes. He felt small. He felt weak. He felt like food. Then she began to speak. She told him a story. It happened 12 cycles ago before was even born. A human colony ship was traveling through space. It was not supposed to be there. It had lost its way. Its engines were failing. It crashed on a small moon at the edge of territory. They found the crash. They expected enemies. They expected weapons. They expected a fight. They found families. The ship had been carrying colonists. Farmers, teachers, builders, simple people looking for a new home. Many had died in the crash. The survivors were hurt and scared, and many of them were children. They surrounded the crash site. Hundreds of hunters, thousands of claws, enough venom to kill a small army. The humans had no chance. They had no weapons, they had no ships. They had nothing but broken metal and burning fuel. But the humans did not surrender. They did not beg for mercy. They did not offer themselves as sacrifice. They did something that they had never seen before. They formed a circle around the children. His voice grew soft as she told this part. She said the human adults stood shoulder to shoulder, facing outward. They held broken pipes and sharp metal. They put their bodies between the hunters and the children. They made themselves into a wall. They tested them. They charged at the circle. They showed their claws. They roared and screamed. They expected the humans to break. They expected the weak ones to run. They expected the circle to collapse. It did not collapse. Some humans died. They killed 6 of them in the first charge, but the circle closed. The humans stepped over their dead friends and filled the gaps. They did not run. They did not break. They stood and faced the monsters with nothing but determination in their eyes. Was shaking. He tried to imagine his own people doing this. He could not. They would run. They would hide. They would sacrifice anything to survive. Continued the story. They were confused. They had never seen prey act this way. They had never seen predators act this way. No species in the galaxy protected their young with such complete commitment. Even mothers would retreat if the odds were bad enough. Survival mattered more than anything. But humans were different. The lead hunter ordered a full attack. They charged with everything they had. They expected slaughter. They expected easy victory. They found something else. The humans fought back. They were weak. They were slow. They were soft. But they fought with a fury that stunned the hunters. One human man grabbed him by the throat and held on even as claws tore his body. One human woman used her own body to block a strike meant for a child. She died with a smile on her face. In the end, of course they won. But 12 hunters died. 12 killed by soft, weak humans who had no weapons, no training, no hope. The circle never broke. When it was over, only 4 human adults remained standing. They were bloody and broken. They could barely move. But they still stood between the hunters and the children. They still refused to step aside. The lead hunter approached them. She expected them to finally beg. She expected them to finally break. The humans asked if they were hungry. Stop talking. She looked at with something he had never seen in a predator's eyes. It was not hunger. It was not anger. It was wonder. She said the humans offered the food, their own food, the little they had left. They said that if they were going to kill them anyway, maybe they could eat first. Maybe they could share a meal. Maybe they could be friends. Could not speak. His voice was gone. Said they did not kill the remaining humans. They could not. Something had changed in that moment. Something had shifted in the universe. These strange, soft creatures had shown the something they had never seen. They had shown them what real protection looked like. Finally found his voice. He asked what happened to the survivors. Told him they brought them home. They healed them. They raised the orphan children. Some of those children still lived on worlds today, grown now, with families of their own. Asked why. Why would predators raise prey? Why would killers become caretakers? Answered with the words that would change, understanding forever. She said that humans were not prey. Humans were not predators. Humans were something else entirely. They were protectors, not protectors of their own young. Protectors of all young, any young, every young. She said this was why predators trusted humans with their cubs. Because humans would die before they let any child be harmed. Not human children, all children. This was not a choice for them. It was not a strategy. It was simply what they were. They had tested them. They had proven it. And now they trusted them with the most precious thing they had. Understood now. He finally understood. Then the explosion came. The station shook so hard that fell to the ground, caught herself on 6 legs. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed everywhere. The air smelled wrong. It smelled cold. It smelled like death. A hull breach, Section 9, the station was dying. Ran with back to the main shelter. Everyone was panicking. Herbivores screamed and pushed against each other. Predators growled and showed their teeth. The captain shouted orders that no one could hear. Then heard something that stopped his heart. The cubs were not in the shelter. Had left them sleeping in a small side room while she talked with. The room was connected to Section 9. The room was on the wrong side of the emergency doors. The doors had already closed. The cubs were trapped. Threw herself at the doors. She clawed at the metal. She bit at the edges. She roared so loud that the walls shook. But the doors were built to contain hull breaches. They were built to stop the void of space. Even a could not break through. The captain explained what was happening. The hull breach was spreading. Section 9 would lose all air in 15 minutes. Then it would lose all heat. Anything alive in that section would freeze and suffocate. The cubs had 15 minutes to live. Begged for help. The great predator, the fearsome monster, begged. She offered anything. She promised anything. She would give her own life if someone would save her children. No one moved. The passage to the cubs was narrow. It was filled with broken metal and sparking wires. It was already losing pressure. Anyone who went in might not come out. And at the end of that passage were baby predators, baby monsters. No one wanted to die for monsters. Then stepped forward. She did not ask questions. She did not wait for permission. She grabbed a breathing mask and a thermal blanket. She looked at. He nodded and grabbed the same supplies. Screamed at them to stop. He told them they would die. He told them the cubs were not worth their lives. He told them that this was madness. Did not listen. She said something strange. She said that the cubs were scared and alone and she could not allow that. She said it like it was simple. She said it like there was no other choice. Then she entered the passage. Followed right behind her. Watched on the security screens. He watched with everyone else. Herbivores and predators stood together, staring at the small humans crawling through destruction. The passage was a nightmare, sharp metal everywhere, sparks raining down, cold air rushing past as the breach pulled atmosphere into space and crawled on their bellies. They pushed through gaps that were barely wide enough for their bodies. They kept moving forward. A beam fell in front of. She pushed it aside with her bare hands. The metal was sharp. It cut her palms. Blood ran down her arms. She kept crawling. His mask got caught on a wire. He pulled hard and the strap broke. Half his face was now exposed to the thinning air. He did not go back. He wrapped a cloth around his mouth and kept moving. 9 minutes left. The cubs were in the small room at the end of the passage. They were huddled together in a corner. They were crying. Small, scared sounds that came through the speakers. The smallest one, the one that had saved from the cold, was shaking the most. Reached them first. She burst into the room and gathered all 3 cubs in her arms. She wrapped them in the thermal blanket. She spoke to them in that soft voice. The cubs pressed against her. They trusted her. Even in terror, they trusted her. Arrived seconds later. He took one cub he put it inside his jacket against his chest. The cub's claws dug into his skin. He did not care. 6 minutes left. They started back through the passage, but now they were carrying weight. Now they were slower, and the passage was getting worse. A section of ceiling collapsed ahead of them. Metal and wires blocked the way. Handed his cub to. She now carried all 3 against her body. Began tearing at the debris with his bare hands. 4 minutes left. Blood covered his fingers. The metal was cutting him to pieces, but he did not stop. He cleared a hole just big enough for a human body. Went through first, protecting the cubs with her own back. Debris fell on her. A sharp piece cut her head. Blood ran down her face. She kept moving. Followed, a heavy beam swung down as he passed. It hit his back with terrible force. Heard the sound through the speakers, cried out. He fell forward. But he got up. His back was broken, could see it in the way he moved. Something inside him was damaged beyond repair, but he got up and kept crawling. 2 minutes left. The emergency doors were just ahead. Stood on the other side, clawing at the small window. Her roars shook the station. Reached the doors. The crew opened them just enough for her to pass through. She tumbled into the shelter, cubs still pressed against her chest. Blood covered her face. Her hands were destroyed, but she held those cubs like they were made of gold. Took her children. She made sounds that had never heard from a soft sounds, grateful sounds, loving sounds. Came through the doors 1 second before they sealed forever. He collapsed on the floor. He could not move his legs. His back was dark with blood. Ran to him. She checked his body. Her face went pale. She started working on him, shouting for supplies, shouting for help. Watch what happened next. Every predator on the station moved. The spider creature with too many eyes, the soldiers with their blue scales and sharp teeth, even still holding her cubs. They formed a circle around the fallen humans. They faced outward, just like the humans had faced outward on that moon 12 years ago. They put their bodies between the humans and everyone else. They showed their claws and their fangs. Spoke for all of them. Her voice was like thunder. She said that these humans were theirs now. She said that anyone who threatened them would answer to the predators. She said that the humans had proven themselves. They had done what humans do. They had protected the young. Fell to his knees. He was crying. He did not know when he had started. He just knew that everything he believed had changed. The rescue ship arrived the next morning, but knew that the real rescue had already happened, and he knew exactly what he had to do with everything he had seen. 3 months later, stood before the Galactic Union Council. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 200 species, herbivores and predators, prey and hunters, ancient species and young ones. They had all come to hear his report. They had all come to understand what had happened on the quiet dawn. His legs were shaking. He had never spoken to so many beings before. He had never carried information this important. But he thought of his bleeding hands. He thought of his broken back. He thought of singing to a sick cub through 19 hours of darkness. He found his courage. He began his presentation. He showed them everything, the recordings from the station, the interviews with survivors, the historical records from the moon. He built his case piece by piece, fact by fact, story by story. The council listened in silence. Some looked bored at first. Another report about humans. Another study of the strange, soft creatures from Earth. What could possibly be new? Then showed them the recording of bowing to. The chamber went completely still. A bowing to anyone for any reason. This had never been documented. This should have been impossible. Explained what it meant. He told them about human parental instinct. Every species in the galaxy had this. Parents protected their own young. This was biology. This was survival. This was normal. But humans had something different. Humans protected all young, not just their own children, not just their own species, all young, every young. Any child in danger triggered something deep in the human brain, something that could not be controlled, something that could not be stopped. He showed them more evidence. Humans on a dozen different worlds in 100 different situations. Humans running into fire to save alien children. Humans standing against armies to protect orphans. Humans giving their food, their shelter, their very lives for young ones they had never met. The pattern was clear. The pattern was undeniable. The pattern was unlike anything else in the galaxy. Some council members argued. They said this made humans dangerous. If humans protected enemy young, they could not be trusted in war. If humans refused to harm children, they could be manipulated. They could be tricked. They could be used against the Union. The Predator representative stood. The ambassador rose first. She was old and missing one eye from ancient battles. She said that her people had tested humans long ago. They had tried to break them. They had failed. Humans did not protect young because of weakness. They protected young because of strength, a strength that no other species possessed. The ambassador spoke next. The spider creature's voice was like grinding rocks. It said that its people had watched humans for generations. Humans were the only species that predators allowed near their nests. The only species, because humans had proven themselves again and again. The ambassador agreed. It said that humans were not a threat. Humans were an asset. Any species that could inspire trust in predators could inspire trust in anyone. The debate continued for hours, watched and waited. He had made his case. Now the council would decide. Finally, the vote came. The motion was simple. Humans would be reclassified. They were no longer just persistence predators. They were now officially recognized as universal protectors, a new category, a unique category, a category that existed only for them. The motion passed. But that was not the end. The predator species added something else. They proposed a second motion. They proposed that humans receive protected status from all predator species. This meant that any attack on a human would be treated as an attack on predator young. Any species that harmed a human would face the combined wrath of every hunter in the galaxy. This motion was unusual. It was unprecedented. It was giving prey species the same protection as predator children. The herbivore representatives were shocked. They had spent their entire evolution running from predators. Now predators were offering protection to humans. Now predators were treating humans as family. The second motion passed even faster than the first. Delivered his final statement. He had practiced these words 100 times, but his voice still shook as he spoke them. He said that the galaxy had spent centuries asking one question. Why did predators trust humans with their young? The answer seemed impossible. Predators did not trust anyone. Predators did not share their children. Predators did not form bonds with other species. But humans changed everything. Humans were not just predators. They were not just hunters. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were beings who could not look at a scared child without wanting to help. They were beings who would die for young ones they had never met. They were beings who saw no difference between their own children and everyone else's children. This was not strategy. This was not evolution. This was not training. This was simply what humans were. Ended his report with a simple statement. He said that humans made the galaxy safer, not through weapons, not through power, not through fear. Humans made the galaxy safer through love, through protection, through the simple fact that wherever humans went, children were safe. All children, every child. The council chamber was silent when he finished. Then slowly, the representatives began to stand, herbivores and predators alike. They stood for the humans. They honored the strange, soft creatures who had done the impossible. Stepped down from the podium. His work was done. 6 months later, he received a message. It was from her hands had healed. She was working again. She had something to show him. It was a picture. 3 cubs, healthy and strong, wearing small jackets that had made for them. They were standing on a world surrounded by the greatest predators in the galaxy, and they were smiling. The message said, they still wave, they still give thumbs up. They ask when their humans are coming home. Looked at the picture for a long time, then he smiled. He finally understood why predators trusted humans with their cubs. It was not complicated. It was not mysterious. It was the simplest thing in the universe. Humans loved children, all children, and they would protect them until their last breath. This was what made humans human. And this was why the galaxy would never be the same.